Lars Larson, Choate, do you know if Elizabeth Warren begins to refer, instead of wealthy corporations, she refers to squalid oligarchs? I'm going to blame my friend Ann Coulter, who has written about the amazing appeal to the Democrat Party of Latino voters and the amazing appeal to Latino voters, especially those who've come from the third world, South and Central America. The amazing appeal of the Democrats' promises, as she wrote, everybody gets a pony, and free health care for in fact, free everything for everyone. Right, Ann?
Yes. Well, I noticed it. I've been reading these articles over the years about all of the insane things going on in Venezuela, among other places. But Hugo Chavez was pretty special, inviting all the poor people to move onto golf resorts, just take them over. Oh, this is a bourgeois sport. We're going to shut them down and empty the barrios onto the golf courses. And of course, he was. It was not Bernie Sanders who wrote the damn bill, as he says all the time, Medicare for all. Oh, no. Hugo Chavez came up with single payer first. So that's why that article in Saturday's New York Times caught my eye. I'm kind of surprised the New York Times even ran it. But that is what's happening with the water in Venezuela. And I shouldn't laugh because it's horrible. These are our fellow humans. But oh my gosh, it's like something out of a horror movie. There's no clean water. They're going and getting water from like the creeks. All the houses smell of vomit and diarrhea and urine. When Chavez came into office, 60% of the people, okay, not great, but it is a poor country, 60% of the people had regular access to clean, safe drinking water. Today, it's 30%. So, how did this happen? And we just had this Democrat debate, and I was watching over the weekend Sanders and Elizabeth Warren on C-SPAN and Michael Moore talking about how great socialism is. And I just sort of put the two together in my column. I mean, not all poor Latin Americans. We get 20% of them who end up being patriotic Americans and understand that socialism will make their lives so much worse. But if you look at an awful lot of Latin American countries and Venezuela, I just go through these elections. Hugo Chavez was not imposed on the people. This wasn't a military coup. The CIA didn't install him. No, poor people voted for Hugo Chavez over and over and over again by huge margins, and he destroyed their lives. Why? With socialism. So my argument is this is, twofold. One is this is why the Democrats want to throw open our southern border as a result of all these socialist economies. Of course, the same thing happened. Sometime read the true story about Eva Perón and Juan Perón and what they did to Argentina. People forget this. Argentina was, at the turn of the not the last century, but 2 centuries back, 1900, was the richest country in the world. In the world. Before the Peróns came in, Argentina had an economy stronger than Italy or Japan, comparable to Germany, and in 10 short years, because of, she was so beloved by the poor, Eva Perón, she loved the poor, and the poor loved her, and will give everything to the poor. Well, okay, then you destroy the economy. I'm not sure the oligarchs are particularly hurt by this, but I know poor people are, and yet we keep seeing it voted for over and over again in Latin America.
See, I'm going to forgive you for the laughing at it because I did the same, but it's because if you punish people with policies that actually hurt people, take their clean water, take their job, take their food, take to the point where you can't find toilet paper for, as you said, the frequent bouts of diarrhea, but you keep voting for them. So they punish you, and then you vote for them. And as you said, the margins are gigantic. His first margin was the kind of win any American politician would hope for. And then the numbers got bigger as he destroyed the country and just kept promising people things. And apparently the Democrats have decided, okay, this is a group of people
who will vote for us and our stupid socialist schemes. And I'm not picking on Latin Americans. That just happens to be a poor area of the world, not as bad as many others, but that's closest to us, that is within walking distance. That's why they're at our border. But the key takeaway from this, which I've written about many times, one thing that makes America freakishly unique is that our working class doesn't like socialism. Everywhere else in the world, Italy, France, England, certainly all of Latin America, working class is basically synonymous for voting for socialism. So that's why the Democrats want lots of poor Latin Americans, because 80% of them are going to vote for socialism. And it's also, I mean, my alternative headline for the column was how wealthy donors, how the rich in our country are going to deliver us, socialism to us, because they want the cheap labor to come in. And they don't care. You're bringing in people who are going to vote for insane socialist schemes that you're not used to, because our working class has been shockingly immune to the lures of socialism and sticking it to the rich, while really making the poor's life much, 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 much worse.
Well, and Ann, I'm talking to Ann Coulter about the great column she's just written, but the thing I'm afraid of is that when I was in high school, so I'm 60, it was 40 years ago, I can remember kids from wealthy families. I mean, I lived in a farm community. There were some wealthy people, there were some wealthy farmers, but they couldn't wait to get out of their house, because they said, I want to go out and be on my own. Not because they didn't like mom and dad.
Right.
But they were like, I want to go out and show everybody I can do it. And if you ever ran into somebody in my 20s, I'd say, well, yeah, I was on unemployment for a few weeks, but I got off as fast as I could. I took food stamps for a few months, but I got off as fast as I could, because you understood that even if you were working class, that you said, it wasn't a point of pride to say, I've been on food stamps for 5 years, I managed to scam the system for that.
Right.
It's an entitlement, and yet today I hear from more people who say, oh yeah, I've got friends who are going to college, have been on food stamps for years, and I say, well, do they want to be? And they say, well, it makes it easier to pay for food. And I thought, but there's a point of pride in being independent, and I'm not hearing that as much. I'm not applying that to every millennial, but there are too many of them who say, oh, mom and dad will let me live at home till I'm 40. Okay, let's do it. It's easier.
Right. This is, that's also separately a problem with immigration. We used to have what the hallmark of America was an enormous middle class. I mean, something like, there have been studies, I forget, but it's something like 80-90% of Americans describe themselves as middle class. You might be upper or lower within that, but there were not enormous gaps. I mean, there is a problem with the oligarchs in this country, and they're the ones who are bringing in the cheap labor, and they're the ones who don't, or not all of them, but a lot of them, who don't care about the country per se. They just want more and more cheap labor, and they are going to deliver a country like Venezuela to us through people like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren.
Who, by the way, to your point about oligarchs, in some ways, Bernie Sanders, who sits in his 3 comfortable houses, drives a nice car, has a nice bank account, has a wife who I think scammed some money. The college thing never got to criminal charges, and it should have. But he's sitting there fat, happy, and rich, saying socialism for everyone.
Yes.
I take it he's not going to be donating his extra 2 houses to the poor out of a sense of socialist camaraderie. He's going to hang on to his 3 houses and say, yeah, socialism's worked out very well. He's worked for the government almost his entire career. He's never produced anything of real value. You got to read this column by Ann Coulter, and you have to pick up her book, Resistance is Futile, How the Trump-Hating Left Has Lost Its Collective Mind. Annie, thank you so much.
Good to talk to you, Lars. Bye-bye.
Good to talk to you as well.